This is going to be a quick video. I am pissed off that I recorded the whole June albums of the month video. It's a rapid fire one where I'm just kind of going through the albums a bit quicker because I really don't have as much time on my hands, especially around this point where my work might be getting rid of me, which, I don't know, that might open some more time for me while I'm job searching, but I mean, there's been a lot going on IRL, and the fact that I recorded about, 15 minutes of stuff and then it just never counted, because the mic was playing up. That's fun. So I'm so glad I did that. I'm just gonna go through these quickly. This is the same formula. Go through the worst and then work myself up to the best. So let's go through the worst records. Start off with Onlap Waves. I've heard of Onlap because they've done numerous covers of stuff, and I think it's interesting, especially the AMV sort of music you'd hear back in the mid to late tens. Like Starset, they've definitely worked on stuff like that with music. I think Onlap itself is decent at what they've been writing, but this album just isn't it for me. I think it's kind of a little bit too generic. There's not really much that really differentiates it from other stuff. It's just okay at best, but I think I'd have to put it in the worst tier just because I just can't really vibe with it. There's not really a song that pulls me in. I get what they're going for and I really want to like it, but I just found it be quite underwhelming. I'm going to have to give it a 2 out of 5, I'm afraid. Moving on to Nothing More, Carnal. I was going to do a separate video on this, but I didn't have the time, so here it is. I didn't really like this album. I found it to be kind of bland and very focused on trying to build a mainstream rock sounding album that's played all over stuff like Octane, Kerrang, and I can understand that because that's been happening with this album. It's not that fun in my opinion. I think, especially since some of the ideas they've had in the earlier stuff has felt similar as well. I think they've had some ideas that felt mainstreamy in the past, but this approach here just feels very forced on it. There's a lot of songs that have these very power moment choruses that definitely feel like they were written to be for radio, but the overall song just isn't quite that interesting, or the whole album isn't really. The David Draymond feature on Angel's Song didn't really do anything for me either. I kind of felt it was a waste of a feature, because David Draymond's definitely got a great voice, but yeah, I can't really say that this track is anything special. I can't really say any of it is. It's a barren listen, I'm afraid. I find it to be quite bland. I'm going to have to give it a 2 out of 5. Didn't really like this one. Eels, with the album Eels Time, I did not care for. I found this to be one of the weakest albums of the year. I think Eels here is just kind of, in my opinion, struggling to really capture the essence of what made their earlier stuff tick, and as they progress I just find them to fall more obscure into experimenting, which is a good thing, but at the same time I kind of wish the experimentation had some better results, because I found this album to be quite bland. I didn't really get into anything on here. It just isn't for me. It's a 1.5 out of 5 and I just cannot feel like I can get into it no matter how much I try. Finally, the worst, or at least the final worst, not the worst, is Kittie. Probably say it's the best thing on this worst tier, but it's still in the worst tier. Problem with Fire is it has potential, it definitely has the rawness, and I think Kittie's got a great vocalist, although I know there was a bit of a mixed reception when it came to the Spit era, just because of how annoying the vocals can be, very like whiny and screamy. But here it just loses its edge entirely. Not the vocals, I think the vocals are fine still, but the band went from being this kind of new metal band that people in the genre did quite know, to just feeling like another In This Moment Butcher Babies clone. There's just this blandness when it comes to a lot of the writing on this record. Some good tracks though. Vultures I like, We Are Shadows is good, but tracks like One Foot in the Grave do speak for the most of the record. It's just there. I think for a comeback it's not that good. I think I can see them definitely, if they had some decent ideas, to push onwards, but they kind of just went for something that felt like they could do it, but it also felt out of their sound as well, if that makes sense. I'm going to have to give it a 2 out of 5. I think it was a bit disappointing. We got one alright album, so let's quickly go through it. The Mysterines, Afraid of Tomorrows. The biggest disappointment with this record is that the first album, their debut, is so much stronger. It had a more garage rock sound. They just drove with this more like more immaturity that made it really stand out. Here they wanted to give a bit more of this kind of darker tone, but give a bit more of a light-hearted instrumentation. So you still got the rock, but it feels kind of indie, more indie than the first record. It's got potential still. I think they could have done more with it though. I think the first record definitely just had a stronger palette, and I think the album was a lot more consistent. This one, good songs, but it's not a great listen. Finally, let's go to the best albums of the week. We're going to get Foreign Hands out of the way first with What's Left Unsaid. I love this record. It is one of the best metalcore debuts I've heard in a while. I think Foreign Hands is building some interesting ideas with this record. So many good tracks. There's not a single moment I felt was dull. They really are popping with some crazy riffs, some great vocal performances, and I just love the instrumentation. Sometimes the drums just go rapid fire and I enjoy it. I dig every track. Shapeless in the Dark is my favourite. It was so close to being my track of the week, but it got overtaken by something else I'm going to talk about on this list very soon. But yeah, Foreign Hands, one of the best metalcore debuts I've listened to. I feel like newer bands are making the genre more interesting for me because there's a lot of creativity and stuff like this. Foreign Hands do not disappoint. This is a 4 out of 5 and I really recommend it. We got The Warning, Keep Me Fed. I remember seeing The Warning support Muse last year, and I did like them, but I really wanted to get an excuse to listen to this one, and while I was going to do a proper video, again, I didn't have enough time, there's been a lot going on, so I'm going to review them here. I loved it. I think this album has a lot of good songs. It's a bit more kind of... That's the Xbox notification interrupting my video that I'm doing in one take, so that's all fun and dandy, isn't it? Let's just turn that off. Yeah, so I like it. The Warning, Keep Me Fed, there's a lot of really fun songs on it. I think the last few songs it dips a bit, but I like everything they bring into it. Yeah, sure, it's a bit kind of standard, it feels a bit generic in some regard, but I feel The Warning's energy really drives and makes up for the kind of more standard-esque direction they're going for. Because I have literally just said there's numerous albums in the worst that just feels like it's just kind of generic and mainstreamy, but that's not a bad thing if you make the formula work, and it does. But whereas here they make it work because it feels like The Warning are building their own sound off of it, whereas other bands just kind of feel like a clone of something else doing it. I'd rather have The Warning, which kind of has an interesting direction of tone, rather than like Kittie just kind of doing something we really heard, or Onlap, which I do appreciate just kind of doing something that's also been heard and overdone. But yeah, good album. I'll give this one a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoyed it. RivetSkull, Absence of Time is a good album, one of the weakest on the best, I'd say. I think it's just kind of a good listen. I don't really have much else to say then. It's just kind of got kind of a classic heavy metal sound that I can imagine a lot of people liking. It's good for what it is. I don't really know what else to say about it. I just think there's definitely been a lot stronger heavy metal records, like Saxon just releasing that amazing Hellfire and Damnation record, or Judas Priest, Invincible, Shield. I think they definitely have a lot more of a badass approach to it, but still good. RivetSkull's good. I'll give it 3 out of 5. The story so far, I Want to Disappear. I honestly think this could be one of the last records, knowing that the band's had numerous falling outs, a member left, and a lot of like personal stuff's been going on with some of the band members. But yeah, when it comes to pop punk, I'm not the biggest fan, so that's probably why I find it good, but never really been blown away by it. I think there's been some good listens from it though. I mean, there was the Bring Me the Horizon pop punk metal album that I think is decent, but I wasn't big on it. I definitely grown on that some of that. But a lot of pop punk for me has just been 3s out of 5s, like Green Day or Alkaline Trio, Neck Deep. It's just kind of, I've been giving it all the same rating, and I'm doing it again. I don't hate pop punk, and I appreciate what they're going for here, but I don't know, the story so far, this kind of just feels, again, like something I've heard before at the start of the year. But the pop-punk blend, I think they've got some unique stuff, such as probably one of the best vocals I've heard from all the pop-punks having this little revival this year. I like what they're bringing here. I think there's some good writing, but other than that, it's just kind of a standard pop punk album that's this year good, but nothing crazy for me. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. My Country Communion is good. I like V, but I just don't think this one is quite as impressive as I want it to be. Some good ideas. I think at the start it isn't quite my sort of thing, but then it drives into some of the better tracks. Quite fun. The instrumentation definitely holds up. I like the sound they're going for. It feels unique and refreshing, but at the same time something that feels reminiscent of something you've probably heard before. There's definitely some classic elements to it that I think really pushes it. But yeah, I like this one. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. It's a good listen. Rendezvous Point, Dream Chaser, one of the only prog metal albums I've even talked about this year. I think it's a good listen though. I remember hearing about Rendezvous Point for years, and I got an excuse to finally listen to them, and this delivered. It's a fun album, start to finish, a lot of good moments. The instrumentation is pretty sick, some really good vocal passages, but when it comes to prog metal, I feel like it's not the most creative sound. There's stuff that just feels a bit alright, but I do like some of the riffs that you go for here. There's a lot of interesting drives they have. I love when the guitars just absolutely kick in with the first track. Don't Look Up, it's awesome. Quite like Utopia. There's a lot of good songs on it. Oslo Syndrome, I think, is one of the funniest titles I've seen, and I like it. It's a really fun album. It's good, but I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. I've saved the best for last with this one. I'm going to talk about Earth Tone 9 in Resonance Nexus. This album is beastly. Honestly, one of my favourite releases of the year. Earth Tone 9 is a band that's had a very small following, and while I think they started to pick up, they went on hiatus. Came back 11 years later with probably their best record to date. This album is insanely brilliant. Every track is powerful. I love the perfect blend of just the harsh metal riffs, very harsh vocals, so then just powerful choruses and hooks that just really excel into some of the best writing I've seen from this band. The Polyphony of Animals is insane as an opening. I think the guitars on this one kick ass. You're straight away just dropped into the manic that this record brings you. And literally, Navison record, Under the Stake, Oceanic Drift. I can't believe I just said Oceanic. Pronounce that wrong, ignore me. Black Swan Roulette, Lash of the Tongues, Etiquette of Distortion, Observe Your Course, Third Mutuality, and Strength is My Weakness. All 10 bloody good tracks. This album is insanely good, and I don't know if I'm overhyping it, but it's just fantastic to me. It is one of the best records I've listened to in a long time. It's definitely one of the top albums of the year, and it probably will stay that way. I don't know if it will be knocked loose, but we'll have to see at the end of the year. But Earth Tone 9 is where I stand. It's one of the best albums I've listened to in a long time. I love every moment. Its alt metal sound just pushes into some of the best boundaries. I thought this was progressive, but it's not. I really enjoy just how creative and experimental this one is. Fantastic album, 4.5 out of 5. That is everything reviewed. Sorry that the formula of this one isn't as great and I didn't have as much to say about everything, but I needed to get this video done. Second of all, I didn't have as much to say because I feel there's a lot of good stuff, but I found this week to be found this month to be underwhelming. More importantly, I'm still sick, or I forgot to mention I got a summer cold, and that's why I sound a bit weird. And due to other stuff happening IRL, I just didn't really have as much in me just to do numerous reviews. So here's the June stuff. There will be some July videos coming out, but I think the uploads might not be as consistent. Hope you all enjoyed, and July albums a month will be a lot better than this video. Thank you for watching. See you next video.